Hey there, welcome to my channel. I'm Christy. If you are new, welcome. And if you're returning, hey, I am so glad you're back. I am excited to share some of this information with you today. This is a question that I've seen a lot on social media and in some of the other platforms. People are talking about there's like this egg shortage, and they're talking about getting into homesteading. Like, what do I plant? How do I figure it out if it's worth it? Is it going to be really expensive to get myself, to raise chickens? Now, of course, every place is going to be a little different. I know that the initial setup of raising something like chickens, if you're having backyard chickens, it's going to be a lot of money to get it set up if you have nothing. But what I'm going to share with you today is the actual costs of what I experience here and how I calculate and how I figure it out. How I determine whether it is cost efficient or if I should just not be doing it at all. And like some real numbers. I have actual numbers here of what my actual costs were and what I've gained from it. So this is just me based on what is factual for me. Now, you do have to consider I live in northern Alberta. We have a much more, basically everything is way more expensive here compared to where most of you live. It's probably very comparable to living in Alaska for pricing. Everything here is really expensive, including feed. The cost of feed is really, really high. The cost of living is really high, the cost of everything. So my numbers will give you probably a higher average than what you could expect in your area, simply because most of you don't live here that are watching this. You're just learning about this and probably live someplace way more warmer than where the air hurts your face like I do. Anyway, so my numbers. I'm going to give you some information first. I do have guinea fowl and chickens. Now, I'm not going to give you the information about raising chickens for meat, but I'm going to give you the cost it cost me to raise my chickens so far this year, not from incubating, but just like what it cost me on an average for the amount of birds that I have. Now, these have not all come into production of laying, but this is what my actual numbers were. And I keep right around 45 birds, and that's a mix of guinea fowl, meat birds, and laying hens. But the laying hens are meat birds. So they're going to be producing meat birds for me. So they are producing eggs, but they're also producing more. I'm not factoring that into this. I'm just going to give you the actual numbers of 45 birds, what it costs me to feed them and care for them with heat as an average for the 12 months of the year. So it's very average, and it's very confined to, we'll focus it more on the side of egg production, because that's what most of you are interested in. So the chickens for me in my climate, they cost me about $50 per month to have about 45 chickens and guinea fowl, housed or like to raise them. It's about $50. Now I do have a heated coop. And that coop, I'm factoring in the cost based on how much power and whatnot that uses and what the average is. Typically, we don't have, negative 59 degrees Celsius wind chills where I would have to have extra heat. And it doesn't last like that all year long, clearly. So there is kind of like this, I just had to average it out. And half of the year I don't use a heater. So I just put that as an average, and I'm not specifically going to be able to give you a number of what it costs to heat my chicken coop because it fluctuates. Today it's like -8 degrees Celsius, and a week ago it was negative 55 degrees Celsius. So, I just can't give you that accurate number today. The way I determine whether or not it is worthwhile for me to raise these birds, I have to look at what am I using them for. It's not just a hobby. So my chickens are primarily to make eggs and for me to harvest eggs for either fresh eating, for baking or whatever I'm doing, freeze drying, preserving, or they're going to be producing eggs for incubation. So I can raise meat birds that we will later put in our freezers, we will later process. But the main focus is they're being raised to make eggs, right? They're being raised to make eggs. The guinea fowl, I raise them not for their eggs, but I raise them because I use them as a natural pesticide. So in our area, we have a major issue with grasshoppers. And that issue with grasshoppers is spread throughout your garden, and it can wipe you out unless you use really heavy pesticides. Astor's yellows is something that will take out snapdragons. It will take out dahlias. The problem with dahlias around here is two problems. We have it's a wilt caused from the fungal issues in the soil, and also the Astor's yellows. Astor's, it takes out carrots. It will wipe out your entire crop of carrots. It's really bad. It's prominent in areas where there's a lot of canola production. And in our area here, we've had a lot of canola farming for many, many years here. And so the Astor's yellows is super prominent, and it is easily spread and heavily spread by the abundance of grasshoppers that we have in our area from having many dry years. And we have different types of grasshoppers that are here. Some that do like to be in trees, some that do hatch out of the ground. There's all kinds of different varieties and species here that really do a number on a homesteader or a home gardener and a farmer and any agriculture. So, here what they do is a lot of times they spray, they use chemicals and, pesticides to remove these pests from the crops. They also have a lot of modified crop protection right into the seeds that are being sown. So they're not susceptible. They don't break down as easy. They have more of an immunity. Whereas a home gardener that has just heirloom carrots or, is just growing a tuber of some sort that they got from their grandmother's garden, a lot of the times it can be very easily wiped out because they don't have an immunity to this invasive disease. So what I do is I use guinea fowl, and guinea fowl do an amazing job. They also love to eat ticks, which is kind of a pro for me because it reduces the amount of money I have to spend on sprays for my livestock and my animals. It also eliminates how much time I'm spending doing shampooing on my animals. And, because when you shampoo your animals with a preventative or a soap to get rid of some of these pests that you have on your animals, like ticks, it can be really, really expensive, and it's hard on the animals, on their natural oils, and it can create skin conditions. So it's kind of an added bonus to get rid of the ticks in my yard as well, so that the house dog doesn't bring it in, the cats don't have them, the horses don't get bothered by the ticks either, and they do an amazing job keeping the ticks out of the yard. We have had none for several years since we've had these birds. So that's why I use them, is for pest control. So now that you have that information, let's look at the numbers. So when I'm evaluating, is it worthwhile for it to cost me $50 a month to keep guinea fowl with the chickens? The $50 a month, we'll split it in half. Say I have half the chickens and half are guinea fowl. Half of the flock in there are for pest control, half of them are for egg production. So we'll say it's $25. Is it worth it for me to keep $25 worth of guinea fowl expenses going on my homestead? And the reality is yes, simply because the guinea fowls, they cost me $25 per month to raise them on an average for the year. But what do they save me? So pesticides, because I have a flower farm, because I grow all of my own food, I would still need the same amount of amendments of pesticides and chemicals as I would if I was just homesteading or home gardener. So it doesn't matter if I'm small scale or large scale, I'm still going to be using the same amount of volume for my homestead, because I still have to protect my whole space, my whole yard. I would have to use the perimeter, do the perimeter. I would have to treat the whole area, not just small spots where I'm trying to keep the populations down. I'd have to protect my whole entire property, and I'd probably have to do it multiple times per year. So the cost to do my space with, there's like grasshopper brands and different products that you can use. The cost to do my space per year is $720 for my homestead / flower farm, to prevent the pests from accumulating. So it cost me $300 per year to raise guinea fowl to do that job for me. Or I could spend $720 on chemicals. So it is more cost efficient for me to have guinea fowl. Now let's look at the chickens. The chickens, it cost me $50 per month for all of my birds. So $25 for me to raise chickens and for me to get eggs out of my chickens. So what do my chickens give me? Well, they give me eggs, right? They give me eggs, which is the purpose of having them. They also give me compost. So do the guineas, right? The guineas also give me a byproduct. They give me compost. They eat our scraps. They turn the scraps. They create a really high nitrogen product that I can apply to my farm, to my garden, for whether I'm doing, home gardening, or, homesteading or selling market flowers, which I have. I've supplied 2 florists with beautiful flowers that were grown in chicken poo. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. They were grown in chicken poo and they looked amazing. And I had Lysianthus last 4 weeks that was grown in chicken poo. So it's good stuff, okay? It's good stuff. So, not only that, the soil amendments. When you're cleaning out your chicken coop, there's feathers, right? There's feathers. And let's talk about the amendments like feather meal. Feather meal is something that naturally happens with shedding feathers into your bedding and into the litter, and that breaks down. There's different microbiology that you could use that is really needed by the soil for that stuff. So those are a soil amendment. On my property, on soil amendments alone per year, what I spend $300 per year on soil amendments that are poultry derived from the store shelves. So if I can do the clean out of my chicken coop and keep those amendments that are in the soil based on the chickens, losing feathers, molting, even the eggshells. The eggshells are considered an amendment. That's a calcium, and it's also a pH balancer for your soil. So those are amendments that I use daily on my flower farm, which I'm getting for free as a byproduct of raising my birds. So let's look at the numbers. Compost, I spend for poultry or like bird-derived compost that I would go and buy at the store. For planting my home garden and not my flower farm, just my home garden, I spend $350. I spent that last year on compost for like products that I would use. That's the cost that it would be to the equivalency of what I used per volume to the cost of it at the store. $350 worth of product that it would cost me, which I have for free. The chickens are making it for me as, food for my garden. It's feeding the nitrogen cycle in my soil. And amendments was $300. Pesticides, $720. And let's talk about eggs for a second. For eggs, we use approximately 2 dozen of eggs a week. Chaz likes to eat eggs for breakfast. I use a lot of eggs in my recipes, even making meatballs, I use eggs. Eggs are in pretty much everything that I'm cooking here lately because they're easy, they're quick, and we love eggs. So here are the going rates for eggs is $5 a dozen. There is commercial eggs in town that I can purchase that are just slightly, like I think 75 cents cheaper than that. They are, they're not free range and they are not antibiotic free. So I prefer to stay as antibiotic free as I possibly can. And I don't purchase those eggs in the store. I just I'm basing my $5 a dozen reference onto what it costs for me to purchase eggs equivalent to what I am able to produce myself, which is $5 a dozen. We go through $10 a week in fresh eggs between everybody here, $10 per week on eggs. So, that's $40 a month, $480 a year just on fresh eggs. Okay. There's also things like that I make pasta. So on top of that, those 2 dozen a week, I make pasta. So that pasta costs, what I would use the equivalency per week. So I use, like when I'm cooking from scratch, feeding my family, we use an average about $8 per week on pasta noodles. So whether it's pasta salad noodles or egg noodles or chicken noodle soup noodles. I'm not counting macaroni. I put that in a different category when I was figuring it out for my own personal references, but just like noodle dishes like linguine or spaghetti or chicken noodle soup, those kind of things, I would spend about $8 per week on noodles for my family. Not every week would we do noodle dishes, but sometimes I would, or I'd make like a whole bunch of freezer meal lasagnas, pop them in the freezer, and I would spend like, $40 on noodles from the store because they're not cheap here. So for me, I was spending about $8 a week on noodles, which I can make them for like $2 a week instead. Because flour, I spent about for making my noodles, it cost me like $60 for flour for the entire year's worth of pasta. And basically pasta is 3 ingredients. Well, 4 technically: water, salt, eggs, and flour. That's it. So it's much cheaper. The cost that I was spending per year on pasta alone, it was like $252 per year on spaghetti, lasagna, linguine, egg noodles, like soup noodles. Just soup noodles, like just any type of egg noodle. I was spending $252 per year when I could make them much cheaper, right? Much cheaper. And they taste way better. There's no chemicals and they're so good. The other thing is mayonnaise. We go through about $5 per week of mayonnaise in our household. And so, that adds up to about $240 per year in mayonnaise that we use. Well, mayonnaise is really easy to make, and the cost to make it is far less than, that amount. So for me, those are egg products that I'm calculating into this. So I'm going to calculate in eggs, like fresh eggs, and egg products. So that includes mayonnaise and egg noodles that I can make myself. So egg products and egg noodles and fresh eggs, the total cost per year of what I would spend at the store is $972. Okay, $972. So let's add this up. So eggs and egg products was $972 per year. Amendments, $300 per year. Compost, $350 per year. Pesticides, $720 per year of what it would cost me to go and purchase without using the byproducts and using what I have here from raising chickens. So the grand total of that is $2,342. Now let's go back to the beginning of the video. How much does it cost me to raise my chickens? $600 per year. Okay. Is it worth it? You tell me. So basically, a lot of you are kind of questioning, how do I figure this out? If it's worth, if it's worth to grow a garden, and is it worth growing tomatoes? Well, the way that I figured out, this is my advice to you, Figure it out just like the chickens. Figure it out, plug it in, know what you're using. I know in our household, when it comes to tomato products, this is what we spend on salsa based on the prices today. $960 for salsa in a year is what I would pay for salsa if based on the equivalency we use, like how much we use in our household. And if I was to go and buy that at the store for a brand that is very similar to what I'm making myself, it's not the cheapest, but it's not the best, right? It's the in between. It's the one, it's like the one that I'm preserving myself. We spend almost $1,000 a year on salsa alone, which is, $960. That's a lot on salsa, right? That's a lot of money to spend on salsa. Barbecue sauce, we would spend, because we do a lot of boating, we do a lot of adventures, we do a lot of, we take food with us on the road. Beef on a bun and pulled chicken or pulled pork is really easy, and so we love barbecue sauce, and I use barbecue sauce a lot. In fact, when I'm doing a group of people at the river or something, cooking for them, I'll make a couple roasts and I'll do like several jars of barbecue sauce that I've made myself, or I'll give it as gifts. But barbecue sauce, again, we were spending approximately $480 on barbecue sauce per year based on a brand that was equivalent to what I'm using or what I'm making. Tomato sauce, we would use another $480 a year average on tomato sauce for making tomato soup or making, chili or, pasta sauce, whatever it is we make. Pasta sauce I did put in my own category because I do can pasta sauce as its own entity. And so it also worked out to $480. So for tomato products that I make myself, just for those 4 things, I'm not counting my freeze-dried tomatoes, which I use constantly, or fresh eating tomatoes, just on stuff that I preserve and have my staples, my 4 main staples on my pantry shelf. $2,400 a year is what it would cost me to buy that stuff that's sitting on my shelf. Does it cost me a lot to grow it? No, because I don't have a lot of the amendments thanks to the chickens and the guinea fowl, keeping things safe from pests. I also, does it take time? Yeah, but I enjoy it. It's something I like to do. And I would rather go string up a tomato plant than go shopping at Costco. I would rather get dirt under my nails than go stand in a grocery store line any day. So, my advice to you is to figure out whether certain things are worthwhile for you to grow it or to preserve it or to raise it. What do you use? How much does it cost you? Is it efficient? And can you use more than just the specific one thing, right? Can you benefit more from just a tomato? Yes. Can you benefit more than just from an egg? Yes. You have to open your mind a little bit and see all of the different things that you can, basically practice resourcefulness. It's really opening yourself up to being resourceful with what you have. Think of your grandmothers or your great-great-grandmothers or grandfathers. They were resourceful. Tap into that wisdom. Tap into that idea of abundance. And you'll see you can save tons of money. And yes, homesteading can be very, very efficient. Homesteading can be very cost efficient and a great way to, live abundantly. There is value in everything on the homestead. You just have to find it. I hope that this was inspiring to you. I hope you're having a great day. I'm going to enjoy my coffee and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye for now. Much love. I forgot to mention something some of you might be interested in. If you run across somebody who makes stuff like dream catchers or whatnot, see where I am in my area, it's a very spiritually prominent. There's a lot of Christianity and stuff like that here as well, which there is also a lot of folklore that goes along with that, with religious beliefs and stuff. But there's a lot of First Nations around where I am. And so in those First Nations communities, there's oftentimes a lot of people that do dream weavers and dream catchers that honor other cultures. And so one of the things that I found in my area anyway, is that if you have like turkeys or guinea fowl, like guinea fowl, for an example, I do collect my guinea fowl eggs that have been naturally shed, and I can provide those at wholesale to someone who makes those dream weavers. And you know, those are good for me to as a product, because it does create some income as well. So you could sell chicken eggs or guinea eggs, because guinea eggs are great to sell too, if you can find them. And there's always that catch. They don't lay a lot either. They only lay in the spring. But you can sell their feathers. And so if you are interested in learning about that, Google it in your area. Maybe somebody may be interested in purchasing your feathers for either smudging, for ceremonial uses, or making dream weavers or dream catchers. For my area anyway, people that use the guinea fowl feathers, they use them for protection and like the spiritual religious beliefs, they use it for a lot of protection work and whatnot. So something to consider.